Good morning, students. Here I am starting the last portion of chapter number 5, and the name of the chapter is magnetism. And today we will compare the properties of di, para, and ferromagnetic materials. We will compare their properties. Okay, so we can write here the property, then diamagnetic, paramagnetic, ferromagnetic. Okay, like this. So we start with the first property, effect of magnet. Okay, what is the effect of magnetic field on these three types of magnetic materials? Now, as we know that diamagnetic materials get magnetized in a opposite direction, right? Suppose you have a magnetic field this direction B, so you can simply understand that here it will be north and this and it should be south. Now you keep a diamagnetic material, it creates a magnetic field in opposite direction to the external magnetic field. So it means that this must have here, just a minute. Suppose you have an external magnetic field like this. We will take in this way. We have an external magnetic field and we place a diamagnetic material here. So what is the direction of this external magnetic field is this. How this will magnetize? It will magnetize in opposite direction like this. Okay, so you can see that their similar poles are coming together. So what will happen? They will repel each other, right? So what happens when you place a magnet near the diamagnetic material? They feebly get repelled. They feel a force of repulsion, but what sort of a weak type of force of repulsion. So they get feebly repelled. Okay, what they will feel? Feebly attracted. Okay, and they will be strongly attracted, right? Similar way you can understand for them also. When you place a magnet, what will happen? They get feebly repelled, they move away, feebly attracted, move towards the magnet slowly, they move towards the magnet very quickly, means strongly attracted. Okay, this was the first property. Then next is direction of magnetization. Direction of magnetization. So how they magnetize? Opposite in direction. Opposite direction to the external magnetic field. They along the direction of external magnetic field or the magnetizing field. They get magnetized along the direction of the magnetizing field. They magnetize opposite to the direction of magnetizing field. They also along. Okay, along the direction of magnetizing field. Only difference here is weak magnetization, here strong magnetization takes place. Okay. Then third one is, if you place them in non-uniform magnetic field. If you place these materials inside a non-uniform magnetic field, now we know that when we place a material inside the uniform magnetic field, it experiences torque. Net force is zero. But here, if you place inside a non-uniform magnetic field, then it will experience the force also. Due to that force, it will have a linear movement. It will have a, you can say, translational movement. It will move on the surface. So how they will move? They will move slowly from stronger to weaker points. Slowly from stronger to weaker points of magnetic field. Means from stronger point to the weaker points of the magnetic field, they will move like this, but slowly they will move. Okay, they will move slowly. How? From weaker to stronger. Right? They will also move slowly, but they will move from weaker points of magnetic field to the stronger points of magnetic field. Right? They will also do the same thing from weaker to stronger, but fastly, or you can say quickly. They will very fastly move from weaker points of magnetic field towards the stronger points of magnetic field. Right? Then the fourth one is in uniform magnetic field. Now, if you place these materials in uniform magnetic field, then if you place a diamagnetic material inside a uniform magnetic field, it will align itself normal to the direction of the magnetic field. It will align if you take a diamagnetic rod, right? Suppose this is the direction of magnetic field. If you take a diamagnetic rod, then it will align itself normal to the direction of the magnetic field. Aligns perpendicular to direction of magnetic field. Okay. How they will align? Align parallel to direction of magnetic field. Right? They will align parallel. These will align normal to the direction of magnetic field. They will also align parallel, but that movement will be fast. Okay, that rotation will be fast, right? Okay, next is, that will be property number 5. Property number 5 is about the value of chi m, the magnetic susceptibility, right? For diamagnetic materials, this chi m is less than 0, right? It is actually less than 0 and greater than or equal to -1, means their chi value is negative. These diamagnetic materials have chi value negative because chi is m upon h and m will be opposite in direction to h, right? That m is the intensity of magnetization, h is the intensity of the magnetizing field. Now, since these materials get magnetized in opposite direction, so m will have opposite direction to h, so their value will be -1, their value will be negative, right? These materials chi m, their value is more than or equal to 0, but they are less than a small value, very small value. We generally denote this small value by epsilon, means their value of chi m will be positive but will be a very small value, right? It's just slightly greater than 0. These materials, their chi m value is very much greater, okay? Even it is greater than 1000. The value is more than 1000. Next is relative permeability. Relative permeability means permeability of the medium to the permeability of free space, the ratio. So their value for relative permeability is more than equal to 0 less than 1, 0 to 1 diamagnetic materials. Okay, then mu r for them is more than or equal to 1 but less than 1 plus, you can say slightly more than 1. It is more than 1 but slightly more than 1. Okay, and they will have a large value more than, you can say 1000. Okay, their relative permeability, ferromagnetic materials, their relative permeability is a large value more than 1000, can be more than 1000 also. Alright, so next is the 7th one. Seventh is the permeability of the materials. Now they have a permeability less than mu naught. Okay, they have a permeability more than mu naught, and these have permeability very much greater than mu naught. Mu naught is the permeability of free space. So diamagnetic materials have permeability less than free space. They have more than free space, slightly more than free space, and they are very much greater than the value of the permeability of free space. Right? Then 8th, effect of temperature. What is the effect of temperature on what happens if you increase the temperature of these materials? Right? So here they are independent. Independent, or if suppose we are comparing the values, we are just comparing the values of the change in values of chi m with temperature, then their chi m does not depend on the temperature. Okay, they are independent. Their magnetic effect is independent of the temperature. Okay, what is the relation here for chi m? According to Curie's law, it is inversely proportional to the absolute temperature. We have Curie's law for dependence of chi m on temperature. And for them we have Curie-Weiss law, right? And it is dependent on 1 upon T minus Tc. What was Tc? Tc was the critical temperature above which a ferromagnetic material gets converted into a paramagnetic material, right? T is more than Tc. Okay, temperature of the object, of the material is more than its critical temperature, then chi m depends inversely on that excess amount of temperature. Correct? Next is point number 9. Next is removal of magnetizing field. Removal of magnetizing field. If you remove the magnetizing field, what happens? Okay, what will happen? These materials, diamagnetic materials, they lose magnetic property soon. As soon as you remove the magnetizing field, diamagnetic materials lose their magnetic properties. Okay, same is the case with paramagnetic materials also. They also lose soon. As soon as you remove that magnetic material, they also lose their magnetic properties. Ferromagnetic materials, they retain magnetic property. Okay, they can retain the magnetic property. Means if you once you magnetize the material, you remove the magnetizing field, they retain partially or fully their magnetic properties. Okay, then number 10, variation in H. Suppose if we change the intensity of the magnetizing field, okay, then we have here M changes linearly with H. Means your M is dependent on H. If you will change H, your M will also change. What is M? M is the intensity of magnetization. Okay, the intensity of magnetization will also change if you will change the value of H, right? Here what happens, M is proportional to H till saturation. We discussed a graph on this, that M is proportional to H till saturation. After that, however, means whatever increase you make in the value of H, it does not increase the value of M. Okay, so till saturation, M is proportional to H, right? Here M is completely throughout is proportional to, is linearly proportional to H, right? Here the dependence is non-linear, but ultimately attains saturation. Okay. Again, here also the magnetic material attains the saturation point, but the dependence of M on H is not a linear kind of dependence. Okay, it is some complex kind of dependence. So this was about the variation in H. Now few more things we can discuss. Point number 11 is hysteresis. Now what is hysteresis, that I will discuss after this topic. That would be the last topic of this chapter, that what is hysteresis loop. So here they show no hysteresis. Okay, they do not show any hysteresis. They also do not show any hysteresis, and they show hysteresis. What is hysteresis, that I will discuss with you just now after this, right? Then next is in which state we find these materials, right? So they can be found in all the three states. All three states means solid, liquid or gas. We have diamagnetic materials of in all the states, solid, liquid and gases, right? They can also be in all three, right? But they are generally solids. Generally solids. You can find diamagnetic materials in all the three states, paramagnetic also in all the three states, but ferromagnetic materials are generally found in solid state only. And the last one you can give the difference of, you can compare them with the examples. So we have copper, lead, right? Or you can have bismuth. We have these examples for diamagnetic materials. Here we have aluminium, sodium, and you can take calcium. Here you have iron, nickel, cobalt. So these are the examples. So these are the comparison. Now here we compared the different properties of all the three materials with different points. Okay, how they will behave. Alright, so this was about the properties. Now we move on to the last topic that I told you that I will discuss with you, that is hysteresis. What is hysteresis loop? Earlier also we have discussed the formation of hysteresis loop in class 11th in chapter thermodynamics in under the topic that Carnot cycle, right? Same thing here, the hysteresis loop is again the same kind of loop is there, right? So what happens is, when we draw a graph of H and B, right? H is the intensity of magnetizing field and B is the total magnetic field. How much was B? It was B naught plus Bm. B naught is the external magnetic field, and Bm is the magnetic field due to the magnetization of the material. So the total magnetic field will be B. So when we draw a graph of B and H, right? So what we see that generally what happens is that when we suppose we place a material, right? And now what is happening that we are introducing here a magnetic field which is in some particular direction. Let us suppose that H is the intensity of that magnetizing field. Now when we go on increasing the magnetizing field intensity, we find that the value of B also increases, right? And we get a graph of this type, like this, right? And as we have already discussed that after increasing this value to a certain value, the material will reach to the point of saturation, and after that whatever increase you make in H, this graph will become parallel to the H axis, means B is not going to increase after that. Okay. Now what happens is, so we have attained the saturation here. Saturation. Let us suppose that this point is A, right? Okay. This you draw a perpendicular if, then this is your plus H. Plus H means your maximum plus H max. Your maximum intensity of magnetizing field in a particular direction. Suppose this direction. So we found that this type of graph we get. Now what happens is we start reducing the value of this H, and what we get is the graph do not retrace this path. It comes like this. Okay, the value with the value of H, when we decrease the value of H, the value of B also decreases, but does not become 0. H becomes 0, right? But B does not become 0, means some amount of magnetic effect is retained by the object here, right? And we reach at this point, suppose B. Okay. So now what happened here? We have reduced the value of H to 0. Now what we do, we increase the value of H again, but in opposite direction, right? So in opposite direction, when we before starting reducing in the opposite direction, there is one thing, that what this part represents. This represents the value of B which is retained by the body. You decrease the value of H, you make the value of H 0, but some amount of B is still remaining inside the material. That is what it has retained, that amount of magnetic field, magnetic property, right? Some amount of magnetic field is retained by the material. This is called as retensivity. Okay, so this length, OB length, this tells you retensivity. Okay, the length of OB in the graph will tell you the value of retensivity of the material, right? Now we increase the value of H in opposite direction to make the value of B 0. So what happens is we get this type of graph, and the graph reaches here. Now this OC length is what? It is the amount. It is the magnitude of H value in opposite direction. The value of H, the value of intensity of magnetizing field in opposite direction required to make the remove the magnetic properties of the material, right? Whatever magnetic properties were retained by the material, to remove them, this much magnetic field in opposite direction is required. Okay, so this part is called as coercivity. Coercivity is nothing but the intensity of magnetizing field in opposite direction which is required to remove the magnetic properties of a magnetized material, right? So we get this graph. Now when we further increase this value of H in opposite direction, now further we increase, so what we get a graph of this nature, and it attains the saturation in opposite direction, right? Now again it attained saturation, and this is the maximum value of H max in opposite direction, right? So now when we further go on increasing the value of H in opposite direction, we get a graph of this type till the saturation is achieved, and after that the graph will become parallel to the H axis again. Means after that whatever you do with the value of H, it is not going to change the value of B. Now again we again start decreasing the value of H, and the graph comes this way. Okay, this is your point D, and we get this value of E. Now what you will find that this OB will be equal to OE. So OB and OE, they both represent the retentivity. Now what is OE? That your H value becomes 0, but B is again not 0. This OE length, this part of the magnetic field is retained by the material. So this is also retentivity. Now again the H is now 0 here. We reach the point E and H becomes 0. Now again in the previous direction, the beginning direction, we again increase the value of H to make this value of B 0, and we get a graph of this type, right? And we reach at the point F. Now at point F, your B value becomes 0, and the value of this length of OF represent the amount of H required in opposite direction of B to make the value of B 0. So this is also your retentivity, and in graph what you will find that OC and OF will be equal. So these lengths represent coercivity. Now if you again increase the value of H in that same direction, then you again reach at this point A. Okay, we again reach the point A, and after that if you repeat the same things again and again, what you will get? You will get this graph again and again. Which graph? A, B, C, D, E, F, A. You will never get this graph again, this OA part. You are not going to retrace that part again. Okay, so this is your right? This is your hysteresis. Now why we call this as hysteresis? Because the meaning of this word hysteresis is lagging behind. Lagging behind. And who's lagging behind here? B is lagging behind H, right? B is always lagging behind, B is always following H, or you can say B is always lagging behind H. So that is why we call this as hysteresis loop. Okay. Now these two things, importantly, I told you that what they mean. One more thing is there, that area of the loop will tell you that how much energy is used up in one cycle of magnetization and demagnetization. So this gives you energy lost per unit volume. How much energy is lost per unit volume during one complete cycle of magnetization and demagnetization? One complete cycle of magnetization and demagnetization will be this A, B, C, D, E, F, A. This complete cycle. How much energy is lost, right? Okay. Now few things we can understand from here, that this area of loop, if suppose you have a material of this kind, you are getting this type of loop, and for one material you are getting this type of loop. Okay, so you can see that here area is large as compared to this. Means the energy wasted or energy dissipated or energy consumed per unit volume of the material in magnetization and the one cycle of magnetization and demagnetization is large here. Okay, simply you can say that the wastage of energy will be more here. Okay, for that magnetization and demagnetization. Now we can have some practical importance of this hysteresis loop, we can discuss about that. Practical applications. Okay, first one is now for a soft iron and steel, right? So for soft iron, when we draw, and steel, okay, when we draw the curves, we get a curve of this nature. This is for soft iron and this is for steel. Okay, soft iron and steel, you can see that the retentivity is low, this length is smaller than this length, the coercivity is also low, this is coercivity, this is retentivity, coercivity, and the area of the loop is also small. What does it mean? It means that soft iron has low retentivity. Low retentivity simply means that if you suppose make the external field, like H value, the intensity of magnetizing field, if you remove that magnetizing field, most of the part of its magnetic properties it loses. Okay, low retentivity, it retains low amount of magnetic properties are retained by this soft iron. Now, where we can use this? Suppose we have some particular example we can take, like suppose we want to make a permanent magnet, right? Now permanent magnet is something which can be used afterwards as a magnet. So what should be the characteristic of a permanent magnet? Permanent magnet means if you suppose you magnetize the material, now when you remove the magnetizing field, it should remain maximum part of its magnetic properties. It means that it must have high retentivity. For using a material as a permanent magnet, we must ensure that high retentivity should be there. Retentivity must be there. Again, it should not easily lose its magnetic properties, right? Means suppose if you in adverse condition, if you introduce a H intensity of magnetization, or you introduce a magnetizing field in opposite direction, it should not easily lose its magnetic properties, should not easily get demagnetized. So it means that it should have high coercivity. Okay, so what we will do, we will make the hysteresis loop of different materials, and we will select that particular material for which this length will be more, and this length will be more. Okay, we will use that particular material to make a permanent magnet which have these two lengths. Means the retentivity and coercivity must be, that part of that graph should be lengthier, should be more lengthier. Okay, so we will use that particular material here. Suppose we want to make a core of transformer. Right? Now in core of transformer, this is a topic which is included in our syllabus. We will discuss in detail about the transformer in chapter number 6. So in means the core of transformer, what we need is that it should easily get magnetized and demagnetized, right? It means suppose if you when your AC current, the transformer we generally use for AC current flows for some part of time, for half time period in particular direction, and then in next half time period in the opposite direction. So AC current moves like this. So the transformer must get magnetized frequently in opposite directions. Means if the core is there, then suppose it is magnetized in one particular direction in the beginning, then in the next half time period it should get magnetized in the opposite direction. So it means that magnetization and demagnetization must take place. And what property we need? That it should not retain its magnetic properties. Once you demagnetize it, it should lose its magnetic properties. So it means that its retentivity should be low, right? it should get easily demagnetized in the when we apply some magnetic field in the opposite direction, means low coercivity, right? Again, how it will magnetize? It will means from with the help of what you will magnetize. For the purpose of magnetization, it will consume electrical energy. With the help of electrical energy, it will get magnetized. Now, if its area of this loop will be large, then it means it will consume a large amount of electrical energy for its own functioning, and that is nothing but a wastage of energy, because we are not getting that energy for our use. So it means that we must select a material for which this length should be small, this length should be small, as well as the area should be small. Major thing is, what we need particularly is this area should be small, so that the wastage of energy per unit cycle of magnetization and demagnetization is small. And that is why we use soft iron for making the transformer core of transformer. We use soft iron, and for making permanent magnets we use steel. Okay, so with the help of this graph of hysteresis, or with the help of hysteresis loop, we identify that which particular material is suitable for which requirement. Okay.